Would you use Palantir if it was a clown platform? No. And if Palantir was a clown platform, would governments be using it for the national freaking security? No. So what the hell is so funny and clown-like about Palantir? They've been in business for nearly 20 years, and people keep forgetting that. All of a sudden, Palantir is a clown stock? Get the F out of here. As you know, Bank of America has initiated coverage on Palantir. They gave them an average price of $13 price per share. Palantir is an absolute beast that nobody's looking at. If I'm not mistaken, they have 10 or 11 analysts now that are reviewing Palantir, compared to over 30 analysts that are now reviewing Snowflake. Analysts play a big role in the price of a company. I know it sounds crazy what I'm saying, but think about it. Now, I know a lot of people like to say, hey, YouTubers, you guys pump a stock and you control a stock. And then everyone's gonna say this is not financial advice, which this definitely is not financial advice. However, although we don't actually buy anything for you, and although we don't tell you to buy anything, we do give you our own plays and opinions that might just open up your eyes and your ears so you do your own research and base your buys, sells, or do nothing at all based upon your own due diligence and not blaming a YouTuber or so on and so forth. Well, analysts play the same exact role. They have their fans, they have the people that read their articles, and you have the people that pay attention to what they say and hopefully do their own due diligence after what the analysts say. So the more analysts that start covering Palantir, the better it is. And an analyst from Bank of America, that's a very strong fundamental bank that a lot of people know and a lot of people trust, and that's why a lot of people are going to be paying attention to this specific analytics. Earlier today on Twitter, I was going through it and somebody actually came up with the entire analysis from Bank of America, and I wanted to read it to you guys. First of all, shout out to CJ at CMCJ128. It seems like he doesn't have too many followers and he's not following too many people. I guess he's a newcomer when it comes to Twitter, and I am definitely following him. Shout out to him. And from his bio, it says operational analytics, investor, traveler, twin girl dad, and cheesehead. Well, shout out to you and your girls. I appreciate you. And it seems like he has some type of background when it comes to analytics. He posted this earlier today. A bit delayed, but I was finally able to dig into the Bank of America coverage initiation report on Palantir from last month. A few highlights. Let's read this. This is the summary. Artificial intelligence unlocking the value of real-time data, buy rating, and $13 price objective. PO is price objective. You're going to be seeing that a lot throughout the article. Dominant position in rapidly growing AI platform market. We initiated coverage of Palantir Technologies with a buy rating of $13 price objective. We see Palantir as a beneficiary of the rapidly growing demand for AI platforms with both commercial and government end markets. Palantir's dominant position in the AI-powered software market, differentiated end-to-end and highly secure solutions, and first-mover advantage should support more than a 30% annual revenue expansion and improving profits in the midterm. Additionally, increased urgency on modernizing military and intelligence capabilities should provide significant opportunities. Our price objective is based on long-term DCF of base, bull, and bear cases for different revenue and cash generation scenarios between now and 2040. This is a fantastic review. Again, thank you so much for CJ. You made my life so much easier. Let's keep going. The current valuation is missing the military intel exposure. So they're saying that currently the valuation of Palantir completely takes out the military exposure. Year to date, Palantir continues to derate in line with software peer group as rising inflation and interest rates concerns impact high multiple stocks. We think Palantir stock has not benefited from the recent defense re-rating. Despite significant U.S. national security exposure, while geopolitical tensions pose a risk to worldwide software penetration, they are an opportunity for Palantir national security solutions in the U.S. and allied countries, as militaries and intel services will need enhanced data and logistic capabilities as soon as possible. I've been saying this for quite a while on my show. This I started saying in early March when this whole Ukraine crisis started happening. It's really nice to get some vindication. It's really nice to get some support. And it's really nice to see another analyst or a analyst, I'm not an analyst, talk about similar things that you're saying. If what you're saying, and it happened on many occasions, not only on this show, but a lot of the Palantir coverage, a lot of the great YouTubers that talk about Palantir, that when you come up with a thesis, a hypothesis, and a train of thought of why you're investing in a company, everybody laughs at you. But all of a sudden, an analyst comes out and they say the same thing that you're saying. First of all, you want to pat yourself on the back because I guess you're not too much of a meme stock idiot, as a lot of people like to call us. And it's good to see that this reinforces your thesis, right? It's good to see that you're not just talking shit, that you're not just coming out of left field, that you don't just have your head in your ass, and you actually think about the macro situation. So it's very, very important. That is the new bullets, beneficiary of rising defense. We expect U.S. and allied defense budgets to grow with increased focus on modernization and implementation of new technologies. Data is a strategic asset, and national security agencies have to make sure they operationalize it securely to better defend from near-peer threats like Russia and China. The recent Russian-Ukraine conflict made clear that the time is of essence and new technologies have to be incorporated as soon as possible. We expect this acknowledgement of urgencies to accelerate the adoption of commercial technologies despite the consumer's preference for ad hoc custom-made solutions because of data rights and IP ownership concerns. Palantir's leading-edge technology, its comprehensive solutions, and management's willingness to deal with government agencies' barriers to entry, regulators, and complex operations should allow them to continue to benefit from the modernization trends and gain market share. What they're trying to say is that a lot of people like to build internally out. Well, Palantir is an external in type of system. However, they're breaking in there, and once Palantir breaks in there, you're not going to stop using Palantir. We see this time and time and time again. Seldomly does somebody start using Palantir and then say, hey, we're not going to use you anymore. Usually they start with a small contract and keep expanding on the contract. Palantir takes out the need for all of these IT guys. Palantir takes out the need to do crazy data analytics for data that's provided. Palantir allows somebody that has low to no code experience to be able to comb through this data as good as somebody is able to comb through data not on Palantir software with crazy degrees and crazy experience. Stock-based compensation remains high for Palantir, but Bank of America expects this to decline to 25% of sales by 2023. And then they give you a chart. They do believe that it's going to go down, and past 2023, stock-based compensation is going to keep decreasing, which means the margins is going to keep increasing. And this is how we're going to show that our cash flow, which we do have cash flow, there is money coming into Palantir. And this is how cash flow is going to turn into profitability. As stock-based compensation goes down, that's an additional expense that's eating out of our cash flow. You take out that expense and all of a sudden cash flow is profitability. Once you have profitability, all of a sudden you're not a meme stock, and all of a sudden you are a legitimate growth stock with legitimate profitability and legitimate money coming into your company. But by that time, we've already been in Palantir for quite a while. And by that time, when we bull up, we're going to be having a lot of smiles on our face because we've been watching the Adam Bergman show for quite a while. Honestly, not financial advice. Definitely do your own research. Palantir institutional ownership is well below software peers, which is contributing to the stock volatility. Palantir is right here. Look at Microsoft, Oracle, Snowflake, all above the blue line. Guys, Palantir has a huge opportunity. Again, because there's low institutional investors, relatively, that's actually not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That means that you're getting in early. I keep saying this all the time. You invest in a company not for today, you invest into a company for the future, for the macro of what can be. Imagine they keep increasing commercial. Imagine they keep increasing government, not only regular government, but military government, and not only internally, but also abroad, outside of our borders. If everything comes to plan, right? All of a sudden, more institutions start buying. If more institutions start buying, all of a sudden the price starts shooting up, especially because all of the paper handlers are already out. Everyone was selling with this downturn. When that happens, you have that magic moment of FOMO, which stands for fear of missing out. And this is the final part of this massive, beautiful tweet by CJ. Thank you so much. Bull base bear case scenarios for Palantir with the following price target. Bull case, $21. Base case, $12. Bear case, $6. Currently, Palantir is trading at like high 8s last time I checked. And they explain why. Our base case scenario assumes Palantir sales grow at 30% compound annual growth rate through 2025. 20% compound annual growth rate in 2025 through 2030, and 8% after that the following decade. This scenario assumes Palantir platforms generate $25 billion in annual revenue by 2040. The scenario assumes EBITDA incremental margins improving from mid-20s in 2023 to 70% by 2035. This is in line with the contribution margin of current revenues in the scale phase. That's the base case, which is the medium. The bull case scenario assumes Palantir's sales grow at 35% compound annual growth rate as opposed to 30 through 2025, 23 instead of 20 from 2025 to 2023, and 10% instead of 8% the following decade. This scenario assumes Palantir generates $40 billion in annual revenue by 2040. The scenario assumes EBITDA incremental margins improving from 30% in 2024 to 75% by 2035. And they justify why. Drivers of our bull case including stronger than expected growth of the AI platforms market, higher than expected Palantir penetration, better than expected profitability, and successful agreements and investments. Successful agreements and investments. That's a very, very interesting point. So successful agreements is growing outside of America and inside, but outside. These agreements are going to come from where? NATO, European Union. And then they can go into Asia as another market. But this is specifically for NATO, European Union. And then they said investments. What exactly is an investment? Well, SPAC investments, special purpose acquisition companies. Palantir invested in over a dozen of these SPACs. I covered 2 of the SPACs. Number 1 is Wejo and number 2 is Lilium, which I'm invested in both of them. By the way, I am invested in Palantir. I have a very nice amount of shares when it comes to Palantir. I'm also one of the only people that actually covers Lilium on a consistent basis. So if these SPACs hit it, if these SPACs knock it out of the park, well, those are the crazy investments that might take off and make Palantir an ton of money, which is going to contribute to the bull case scenario. On the flip side, you do have a bear case scenario. This assumes only 26% instead of 30 or 35 through 2025, and 16% as opposed to 20 or 23% from 25 to 2030, and 6% as opposed to 8 or 10% for the next decade. It assumes $15 billion in annual revenue by 2040, and the scenario assumes EBITDA incremental margins improving from 30% to only 65% by 2035. In our view, and this is the justification, in our view, drivers of the bear case would be lower than expected AI platforms market growth. I don't think that's going to happen. I think AI data analytics is going to grow massively in the next decade. Massively. It has to. There's so much data. There's so much analytics that's needed. There's so much robotics out. There's so much problems that the world is trying to solve. It would be ridiculous if AI does not grow. I mean, unless the world is ending, AI is going to be tremendous for the next decade. And past that, this is where the world is going to. Faster than expected commoditization, greater success among competitors to catch up with technologies. So that's not going to happen. Everybody is 5 to 10 years away from Palantir. You heard the CEO of Snowflake, I believe Snowflake or AI or C3 AI, I think it was Snowflake. He was talking on stage and basically he was describing that he's going to bring his company to the next level and literally describing what Palantir does. The problem is it takes 5 to 10 years to catch up to what Palantir does. And by that time, Palantir is going to have another product. Remember, Palantir started with Gotham. They maxed that out, nearly maxed it out. Then they have Foundry. They still got some room to grow. Now they have Apollo. They have Edge. And there's some rumors that they're working on a brand new project. And they keep upgrading their platforms. For example, they have Foundry Europa, which is the newest version, the upgraded version of Palantir. It's going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible, for anybody to catch up to Palantir, especially when they lock up government contracts, especially when hopefully they become a DoD prime, specifically a software prime. How are you going to catch up to that? Continued resistance from government contracts to use commercial off-the-shelf solutions. Not going to happen, not going to happen, not going to happen. I mean, there is a chance that's going to happen. I'm just joking. There's always a chance of something happening. But in reality, I don't think that's going to happen. You see Palantir expanding into government. And as I said before, if we become the 6th prime, specifically software prime, if we get into NATO, if we get into the European Union, and these are all evidence of things that's happening, then there's no reason this bear case scenario should happen. This bear case scenario I don't actually see as a scenario, and it's going to be between a base and a bear case scenario. That's my personal opinion. You don't have to agree with it, and I'm ready for the trolls to call me a clown. But remember, how is Palantir a clown stock if Palantir has not a minimum viable product, but an actual premium viable product, an actual product that's currently being used not only by the United States, but also abroad, and not only by commercial clients, but also governments, domestic and abroad, and more importantly, military government contracts domestically and abroad. Would you use Palantir if it was a clown platform? No. And if Palantir was a clown platform, would governments be using it for the national freaking security? No. Does Palantir have cash flow? Yes. Is Palantir profitable? No. But that's going to be fixed with the stock-based compensation that keeps going down and down and down. Does Palantir have amazing margins? Yes. Does Palantir owe crazy debt? No. Does Palantir have assets? Yes. Does Palantir have guaranteed contracts that they still need to finish? Yes. Does Palantir have potential larger contracts that are possible extensions of existing contracts that still can be fulfilled? Absolutely. So what the hell is so funny and clown-like about Palantir? They've been in business for nearly 20 years, and people keep forgetting that. All of a sudden, Palantir is a clown stock? Get the F out of here. Have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe. Love you all.